Chapter 16. It's very uncomfortable to be around his younger brother, Lisa responded in a casual manner. Certainly, disregarding the frigid undertone in his statements. I am a considerate person, and we both agreed on it. James grew more gloomy. Not wanting to stare at Lisa any longer, he hurried upstairs swiftly. When Lisa awoke the following day, she did not see James. In her bewilderment, she questioned, "Where is James?" "The sir had a restless night, so he departed bright and early," the maid explained. "Clearly, this man feels uneasy living with me, but he remains nonetheless," Lisa thought to herself. Sure enough, the power of love was noble. He was willing to put Emily's safety first at any cost. Thinking about it that way, she began to pity James. On the other hand, James returned 0 times in the days that followed. Lisa thought to herself, was it because Emily had said something that affected him, which delayed his return? If that was the case, it was probably good for the both of them. After all, they were still not adjusted to each other after such a long time. Living together genuinely made both of them anxious. But why did she feel slightly uneasy? When she pictured him with a lady like Emily, she just felt lonesome. It was possibly because Emily was too disagreeable. She did not want to witness Emily obtain what she desired. Filming for the television series was slated to begin soon. Lisa was to play the role of an upright yet vicious lady, Sarah. The first filming place was in B City's filming studio, so on the day filming began, everyone gathered there. The sign on the door has the name of the series, Swords of Love, printed on it. The novel had been incredibly popular when it was released, so there was a lot of buzz about the series even before filming had commenced. Anticipation was further heightened because the male lead was Nathan. The inaugural party was to be held there, and Lisa was there to attend it. However, Lisa did not know why she had suddenly become popular. Everyone in the production team seemed to know that the character of Sarah had been allocated to a rookie actress and that she was this rookie actress. Everyone on set was a senior to her, so Lisa could only walk around with a glass of wine and propose a toast to everyone. After some while, she felt her head begin to heat up. Then she heard someone mention that Olivia had come. She was the female lead of the series and the most popular young actress in the mainland. When she entered, most of the attention turned to her. She was followed by a few helpers and supervisors, commanding attention wherever she went. As Lisa watched her, she honestly felt that Olivia was extremely attractive. It was the first time she was so close to such a huge celebrity. Lisa shocked at how she was actually a huge star. She had so many followers outside cheering her, and wherever she walked, there was a queue of people waiting upon her. Without a doubt, she was the focus of attention. But then she saw Hannah saunter out in a pastel yellow suit. With the wind blowing at her, the dress fluttered slightly and made Hannah seem refreshing and pleasant. Immediately, other people went over to her to initiate a chat. After all, Hannah was incredibly popular. Although she was not as popular as Olivia, she had just started to get notice, and her future seemed bright. However, she did not command as much attention as Olivia. A while later, she heard someone announce Ethan's arrival. From the minute he debuted, Ethan was tremendously popular. Now he was the newest male god that everyone heard about. When he stepped out of the celebrity vehicle, the fans around it started making a disturbance instantaneously. Their voices were loud and booming. The other celebs in the van could not help but feel envious. A top celebrity was a top celebrity. The moment he got out, a mob of people surged after him. Beside Lisa, Richard immediately whispered to her, "You and Ethan have quite a few scenes together. Remember to try to get close to him. Go over to him later and meet him. Otherwise, your scenes together may be awkward." With her mouth half open, Lisa gazed at Ethan from a distance. He was tall and slim, his lips crimson and teeth sparkling. He looked a little like James. Naturally, she now recognized that the two of them were, after all, biological brothers. But no matter what, James was her spouse by name. She felt a little strange meeting his younger brother like this. Before she could finish that concept, Richard shoved her forward and screamed, "Go quickly!" Lisa's gaze immediately met Ethan's familiar eyes. Ah. Senior Ethan, hello. She could only summon up the bravery to welcome him. The director hurriedly brought her to him, claiming that the role of Sarah was to be played by Lisa. Ethan glanced at this rookie actor with little interest, noticing that although the expression on her clean and natural face was a touch blank, her gaze was sparkling and clear. She was fairly eye-catching thanks to her stunning light skin. Indice. A business abounding with lovely ladies who were starting to seem more and more alike, she gave off a totally distinct vibe. He smiled as he said, "Hey, am I scary?" "Huh? No. No way. Then why do you seem afraid to look at me?" He smiled softly as he stared at her wide and intelligent eyes. Of course, Lisa felt nervous, especially when she thought about how her primary objective was to poison him. In the end, laughing dryly, she said, "No way. I'm just a bit uneasy." "Oh, Senior Ethan, please go ahead. I'll be leaving first." "Hey, why are you running away?" Perplexed, Ethan looked at the director beside him. "Hey, do I look very scary?" The director tenderly admonished this insensible girl. "Of course not. So many people idolize you." Lisa stood there trying to avoid Hannah, not wanting to bump into her. It was good that although they were filming the same series, they did not have any scenes together. Lisa was happy with this. She just wanted to film this series quietly and properly, without having Hannah affect her mood at all. When she managed to sneak out, Lisa found a place to sit. Soon later, she heard a voice above her head. "Hey, no one is sitting here, right?" Lisa raised her head to look. Ethan was here. With her mind blank, she said, "Nope." Ethan sat down and crossed his legs. He exuded a slight feeling of uncontrolled rage. Although his face had the same cold lines as James, it was different from James's stoniness and grace. He seemed a lot more uninhibited. In comparison, James was cooler while he was more impassioned. Lisa lifted her glass and sipped a teaspoon of water. She caught sight of Hannah looking at her and turned back to him. Ethan glanced at her. "You're playing the role of Sarah?" Lisa nodded, looking respectful and mannerly. It was only appropriate to behave this such towards a senior. "So will have scenes together?" "Yes." "I read the script," Lisa said. Ethan stared at her with a mild interest. "Since we have scenes together, shouldn't we first get closer?" Lisa lifted her head softly. "But we don't have any love scenes." Ethan was instantly silent. He inspected Lisa and added, "It seems like you've already read the entire script?" "Yes." Chapter 17. You can't afford to offend those with the surname. Carter Nathan remarked, "I happen to be confused about a few things, so why don't you help me?" Lisa blinked blankly in answer. "Actually, I only paid close attention to my scenes. Senior, if there's something you don't understand, I'll ask the producer to help you out. It won't be good if I misinterpret the significance of the scenes." Noticing that Nathan was continuing to look at her without a reply, she queried again, "Did I say something wrong?" After all, it was also Lisa's first time playing such a prominent part. She herself was apprehensive about some areas that she did not grasp. Thus, she was substantially more attentive while dealing with a senior. Nathan chuckled upon seeing her worried expression. He shook his head and responded, "No, it's just—" "Thank you for being so thoughtful, but there's no need to trouble the producer. I'll get someone to come to my flat and help me," Lisa replied with a, "Oh," before sitting down again. Sensing that Nathan's eyes were still on her, Lisa lifted her head and murmured softly, "Is there anything else you need, Senior?" "No," Nathan laughed. "It's the first time that I've met a rookie as diligent as you." When Lisa heard this, she looked at him gratefully. "Thank you for the compliment. I'm just learning from you." Nathan said, "You must have received the role through your acting skills. I think you'll do well." Yes, if not for her acting talent, it would absolutely be very impossible for her to establish herself in this industry, given her lack of intelligence and maturity. The fact that she could not even understand that he was purposefully giving her a chance to get closer to him made characterizing her as intelligent an overstatement. Upon hearing this, Lisa was really affected. "Really? Thank you for your encouragement. Senior, I'll surely work hard." It was obviously her acting ability that got her the gig. Beside them, the director peered with wonder at Lisa and Nathan sitting together. Perplexed, he said, "What's up with Nathan today? He typically doesn't like chatting to anyone." The manager said softly, "I'm not sure either." He already reserved a room inside, but he hurriedly raced over there to sit. "Hey, is the person speaking to him a new actress? I haven't seen her before." "Yes, we made an exception and gave her the role. Her image is not bad. She actually suits this role." During the opening party, multiple pairs of eyes gazed across at them. The big shot Nathan was infamous for being cold and unsympathetic to others. However, he was suddenly conversing with another actress in the series today, and this person was a beginning. Everyone gazed carefully at this newbie. "That rookie is not bad. I heard they made an exception for her. She looks really good. She leaves an impression." When Sarah heard this, she shot an icy gaze at the individuals behind her. They quickly stopped conversing. Everyone in the industry knew that Sarah had a bad temper. They were concerned that she would create trouble today. Although they were unhappy with Sarah, her powerful background ensured that no one could hurt her. So even when Sarah sat in the center, no one cared to offer her attention. Sarah looked over angrily and thought to herself, "What is up with this small ball Kwai?" Was she familiar with a top celebrity like Nathan? It was impossible. How could someone like Lisa have any interaction with Nathan? Something must have happened to force the two of them to sit together. However, the generally indifferent Nathan sat there looking like he was having a lovely talk with her. It made Sarah jealous. She felt even more uncomfortable when she observed that everyone was paying attention to that tiny bean because of Nathan. This Lisa is doing it on purpose. She must have purposely teamed up with Nathan. This little bee obviously has some tricks under her sleeve. The opening party continued. As Lisa moved past the corridor leading to the washroom, she caught sight of Sarah. "Lisa." She looked Lisa up and down, thinking she looked different now, as if there was something more to her. She seemed to be more mature or charming. Whatever the case, she no longer felt like a child, but more like a lady. She scoffed and said, "I advise you to leave this production team." Lisa gazed at her coldly. "Why must I leave? If you feel uncomfortable, you can leave." Sarah snorted. "Keep being stubborn, Lisa. Do you know what Ryan appreciates best about me? Do you know why he will never be interested in you? He appreciates my feminine charm the most. He won't fall in love with you, therefore you should go look in the mirror. If you don't have money to get plastic surgery, I can lend you some. But you're in the wrong for turning to techniques to entice everyone when you don't have a nice face." Lisa furrowed her brow as she glared at her. "What do you mean, Sarah?" Sarah sneered. "Don't pretend. The whole team certainly observed you wooing Nathan just now. Do you still want to make excuses? Huh, look at yourself. How dare someone like you try to seduce Nathan? Do you know who he is? Do you think Nathan would be interested in someone like you? You better tell me clearly. Sarah, don't place the responsibility on others just because you're not capable enough." After hearing Sarah's words, Lisa could not help but raise her voice. "What's happening?" At this point, a voice shouted out from behind them. Lisa turned her head only to see that Ryan was here. Her heart thumped. The second she met Ryan, her defiant attitude melted totally. She could not help but feel bitter. As she glanced at Ryan, her demeanor softened. However, Sarah soon went into Ryan's arms. "I was just warning her not to be too casual in this industry." The whole production team witnessed her wooing Nathan just now. Her reputation would be harmed. However, she not only refused to listen to me, but she actively shouted at me. I only wish to provide her guidance because she's my younger sister." Ryan glanced at Lisa with wonder. "Nathan?" Lisa felt a little disappointed. Although Ryan could not seem to accept it entirely, he yet continued to calm Sarah, whose shoulders were shaking. "Lisa, Nathan is the third young master of the Carter family. He's not only a celebrity, he's also the third successor to the Carter family, something you are probably unaware of. You should really stay away from anyone from the Carter family." Lisa gazed at Ryan speechlessly. Sarah watched on from the side, loving Lisa's uncomfortable appearance. The look of arrogance on her face would have infuriated anyone. "You are entitled to your own thoughts. I still have stuff on, so you guys go ahead." Without looking back, Lisa went out to Ryan's appallment. After comforting Sarah a little, he eagerly chased after Lisa. When Ryan grabbed Lisa's arm, she was already outside. The dark night sky made her face appear even paler. As he looked at her white and clean face, Ryan appeared to understand for the first time that her face was as white and soft as a peeled egg. It was virtually translucent. Looking square into her eyes, he said, "I'm serious, Lisa. No matter what, the family in our country that no one can afford to anger is precisely the Carter family. Nathan is the third young master of the Carter family. Otherwise, with his rank, how could he command the respect of so many people?" Chapter 18. Hubby. I'm drunk. Lisa glanced at Ryan. Perhaps it was because she had eaten too much wine, but she had grown considerably more impetuous. What if I've already offended them? Ryan paled as he muttered, "It may be all right to offend Nathan. But his eldest brother is our present president, Richard. Also, his second brother is the mysterious business tycoon, James. These people are typically involved in dealings unintelligible to us. So in this country, it's advisable to keep away from their family. Do you understand?" Lisa felt her mind turn abuzz in tumult. How could I be familiar with them? It's fine. Just let me go. You should go back and look after Olivia. There's no need to bother about me. But as Ryan gazed at her, she pushed his hand away with her small one. The sensation of her palm made him space out temporarily. At that moment, Olivia had already come up to them from behind. Lisa glanced at Olivia, one last time before laughing harshly. In a drunken daze, she went away, leaving fear on Ryan's face as he watched her leave. However, Olivia drew him back and questioned, "Was what you said just now true? Nathan has such a powerful background?" Ryan continued to look in the direction Lisa had left. "Yes, but it appears Lisa has really grown up. She's no longer the small kid she was." Upon hearing this, Olivia's delicate eyebrows knitted together. She did not want to hear him talking about Lisa. In addition, she felt sorrowful as she thought about how Lisa had just been sitting with the typically chilly Nathan. Now she was burning with jealousy, having discovered that Nathan was not merely a famous celebrity, but one with such a powerful heritage. How did Lisa manage to draw Nathan's eye? When Lisa stepped out of the tunnel, she bumped into someone. She lifted her head only to see Butler Ethan. She could not help but smile. "Butler Ethan, why are you here?" "Madam, you're inebriated. I come to take you home." Hearing someone call her madam, she believed that it was even hilarious. Could she even be considered a madam? She was brought home in a fog. When James heard the noise outside, he walked out the door in large steps. However, a soft and pliant body unexpectedly fell on him, the soon he reached the door. When James got his bearings, he felt the smooth flesh on her chest push against his own, causing his heart to flutter. But immediately after, he observed the 2 patches of red over her face. Her eyelashes fluttered lightly, and her lips were like delicate, delectable flower petals. Her ear was pressed against his neck, annoying him. He froze when he put his eyes on her. What's going on? The reeking stink of alcohol assaulted his olfactory receptors as though the woman had just come out of a tank of vodka. "Hey!" She glanced at him. James was frowning intensely, and his dazzling eyes were deep and unfathomable. "Hubby, I'm home." James had no choice but to keep holding her up, for if he let her go, she would have definitely fallen right to the ground. This simply made the people surrounding them feel nervous. They were concerned that James may hurt the madam in his fit of fury. "Why did you drink so much?" he murmured sadly, before flashing a glimpse at the others surrounding them. They promptly retreated out of the room silently and left the house for the 2 of them. "Oh, we had our opening party today, hubby?" James's expression reddened when he felt her fingers stroking him recklessly. "What did you call me?" Lisa pushed her luck and put both her arms on him, reflexively hooking them around his neck. "Hubby, what else can I call you? You and I acquired our marriage license. Therefore, of course, you're my spouse, right? Call me by my name," he said kindly. You... James wrapped one arm over her torso and pulled her up in his arms, carrying her into the bedroom. During the way to the bedroom, Lisa did not stay still by rubbing her face all over his chest. She was just like a kitten, and it made James feel even more irritated. It was only after tossing her into bed that he felt the blazing fire in his body decrease a little. He had also just arrived home and didn't have time to change his clothes. Discomforted by his tie, he reached up to loosen it slightly before staring at the disheveled woman on his bed. The sight of her lying there made her appear a little forlorn, actually. Thus, he looked down and loosened her garments a little to make her feel more comfortable. To his shock, she seized his tie and yanked it, causing him to crash against her soft body immediately after. With both hands beside her head, he stared at her up-close face very attentively. Her cheeks were incredibly gorgeous. It looked as if a bit of rouge had been placed to them, making her look like a ripe apple. With her mouth turned up, she extended her tongue out slightly to taste her lips. The move caused a stir in his nether regions. Damn it! After talking to himself, he felt something peculiar about his chest. When he gazed down, her chest was right below his. Her half-open collar exposed an obvious big patch of soft, white-skinned cleavage. Lisa appeared fairly slender, yet the places that were designed to be squishy were indeed plump. It was James's first experience staring at a woman's body at such a close distance and in such an awkward position. His gaze deepened, and with a turn of his body, he withdrew himself from her. Facing upwards, he laid on the other side of the bed while breathing deeply. He thought to himself, his physique seems to have gotten a lot healthier after changing his medicine recently. His ailment did not flare up despite the fact that he had made touch with Lisa. He turned his head. The woman beside him was staying still for now. Lisa's skin was undoubtedly a lot fairer than any other girl's skin, despite not trying hard at keeping her fairness. Her inherent paleness merely emphasized her exquisite beauty. She did not appear unfriendly. Even with the flush of alcohol on her initially fresh cheeks, it simply added to her charm. She was like a freshly bloomed flower with a vibrant, enticing color. Then Lisa began to fidget again. What the hell? Why hasn't someone switched on the air conditioner? She reached her hand out to tug at her clothing. I'm going to die from the heat. Hearing her cruel statements, James wished to leave her alone to die there. However, when he turned his head, he watched her clumsily tugging at her garments in weird directions, but it was a hopeless attempt to take them off. He waited for a minute before walking back to her. Stop yanking. I'll help you. Despite saying so, he actually had no concept where to put his hands. At his age, he still had not waited upon any woman, but in the end, he managed to pull her clothing up and started off by taking down the zipper at the back. Her body was immediately unveiled. It was as if spring had arrived. Lisa felt much more comfortable, and she immediately ripped off her cloths as hard as she could. Her lacy underpants appeared quickly. Lisa, Chapter 19. Why aren't you calling me hubby anymore? Lisa, can you sober up a little? James came over to her and helped her up. His attention quickly traveled to her flat abdomen. Shifting his gaze, he mumbled through tight teeth. Lisa, sober up a bit. Lisa tilted her head to glance at James. Hubby, you're so fierce to me. James resisted his temper. I can be even fiercer. Hubby, do you really hate me? She glanced at him, her glittering white teeth biting down on her bottom lip and causing it to turn slightly red. Strangely, James's heart lost a beat. As he glanced at her, he had initially intended to ignore her, but he nevertheless cajoled her patiently. All right, I don't hate you. Really? He hauled Lisa up in his arms. Using her arms and legs, Lisa swiftly leaned on his body. James remarked that uncharacteristically, he neither broke out in a rash nor did he feel uncomfortable. He stared down at her head, which was lying on his shoulder respectfully. She seemed to have fallen asleep, and her lashes were fluttering at an angle. At 168 centimeters tall, she could not really be termed little. She was indeed taller than most girls. But right now, when she leaned against him, she appeared exceedingly small. It soon roused him to protect her. After setting her down, her arm looped around his neck still more. Her small face, completely flushed scarlet from the drink, was pretty near to his. Her perfume blasted him in the face. A faint numbing feeling tingled over his body. Hubby, I still want a hug. James said, Do you know who you're speaking to? My hubby, she responded in a haze. For a moment, James was actually speechless. Be good and don't make a fuss. He tried to shove her away, but after stretching his arm out, he ended up just touching her luscious hair. Give me a hug, she continued to mumble. With no other alternative, he laid down and pulled her into his arms. allowing her small head to rest in the crevice of his neck. This merely helped to freeze him up as his body stiffened quickly. Just inches under his eyelids, he heard Lisa moaning and sending forth screams of delight. Not bad. James's body softened. Finally, James laid her down, only to hear her from behind him shouting with her eyes still closed, "I still want a hug!" James grimaced and massaged his forehead. This woman. Why was she so clingy? And that was when a sudden thud occurred from the woman on the bed. James hurriedly turned his head and noticed that Lisa had already fallen upon the floor. Although the floor was lavishly carpeted, it was clear to the eye that Lisa had fallen, rather hard. Holding onto her forehead, she raised up and stared blankly ahead. When she recognized James, she frowned and inquired in a concerned tone, "What happened, James? Why am I here?" She was finally not calling him hubby. "You're drunk. If you're awake, then get up. Wash up before you sleep." Lisa reacted with a "oh," as if she had also thought of something. She crawled up from the ground in a bid to get back onto the bed. However, her body was soft and spongy. After crawling up thrice, she still did not able to get on the bed. As he witnessed her behave terribly, James felt as though he had invested a year's worth of patience before successfully convincing himself to walk over. Without any hesitation, he swept Lisa up in his arms. Lisa froze and her cheeks gradually got red. James did not look at her, but he felt both of Lisa's hands grasping the lapels of his jacket. Her long lashes fluttered slightly. He appeared, too, handsome when carrying her. Unable to look at him calmly, she felt like she was ready to suffocate. She could only grab onto him like if she was deeply terrified that she might unintentionally let out a sigh. While tugging on his lapels, Lisa raised her chin and carefully inched closer towards his face. James bent his head. As he stared into her brilliant eyes, the fires inside him almost burned his rationality utterly away. His eyes paused as they glanced at her lovely red lips. Her lips were wide and thick, as if they were particularly made for kissing. The corner of his mouth twitched when a concept came to his head. However, he felt his body becoming tight to the point where he could not move. It was as if his range of view was confined exclusively to her lips as he softly inched downwards. But at this particular moment, blur. James simply felt a flash of heat on his chest as if something was going upwards. She had vomited. On his body. James could no longer tolerate it. Immediately, he scooped her up and carried her to the bathroom. He threw her into the bathtub, picked up the shower spray, and directed it at her head. So damn dirty. Can't you be at least a bit feminine? What woman behaves like you? After ingesting so much booze, you come home in a mad fury and you even dare to barf on me. The water sprayed into Lisa's eyes and caused her to feel uncomfortable. She was almost about to cry as she fought to get away. However, James instantly stepped into the water himself, pushed her down, and vigorously cleaned her. As for Lisa, she felt wonderfully invigorated by soaking in the water. She found a comfortable posture and laid down directly. She slept quietly, her head nestled in the crook of his arm. Her eyes were closed and her mouth was tilted. Under the warm water, her face was crimson as if she had placed on some of the best quality rouge. The mist collected delicately into pearls on her long lashes. James gulped, and with some difficulty, moved his attention away from her face. He wanted to throw his hands in the air and leave her alone. This troublemaker really irritated him too much. However, when he turned his head to gaze at her under the water, looking like a well-cooked lobster, he thought twice. Eventually, he went over and carried her out in one swift motion. The next morning, Lisa woke up the next day with tremendous anguish all over her body. While holding her head up with her hand, she climbed off the bed and glanced down. Why was she naked? Her head was pounding furiously, but she failed to swiftly recall what had happened. What silly things had she exactly done last night? In a drunken outburst, she grabbed onto James persistently and had vomited all over him. The picture shook her awake, forcing Lisa to hastily grab her garments and put them on before racing out in a panic, only to see the maid holding a cup of hangover soup. "Madam, you're awake. The hangover soup is ready. Where's sir?" Lisa asked gently while feeling guilty. Why aren't you calling me hubby anymore? A voice traveled clearly from behind her, and Lisa automatically turned her head. James rapidly rushed towards her from behind and made huge strides. His look was deep and intriguing, and his demeanor was as chilly as ice. It appeared like it might freeze someone. Chapter 20. So are you moving out or not? How Lisa hoped she could bury herself into a hole in the ground. As she glanced at him, she fiddled with her hands as she said softly, "Last night. To be precise, you should say this morning because it was already dawn when you came back." Holding a white ceramic coffee mug between his fingers, James lifted it to his lips and took a sip. "Fine," Lisa whispered hesitantly. "Sorry, I was inebriated. I forget what I did." Lisa was striving to convey ignorance. James raised his deep eyes and looked at her. "You did nothing." "Is that so?" Lisa blurted. James's eyes flared. "Or were you hoping that you did something?" No, it's best if I didn't do anything." Lisa glanced down in guilt. James narrowed his eyes and gazed at her. "It looks like you've forgotten everything," Lisa said swiftly. Yes, I remember nothing." James went closer to her and gazed at her face with his dark glare. "You kissed me last night." Shocked, Lisa said frantically, "No way. That didn't happen at all. I recall clearly that I vomited before I even kissed you." It was only after she finished speaking that she understood her words. She hurriedly reached her hand up to cover her own mouth. James lifted his eyebrows. "It looks like you didn't. Really forget everything." Greatly ashamed, Lisa actually wanted to hit herself a few times. With her cheeks flushed totally red, she dropped her head and whispered, "Sorry, I know that I'm a married woman now, but I still behaved in that way. It's my fault. I was drinking last night, so I wasn't totally conscious. I won't do that next time." "There's still a next time?" James's brow twitched. No more. There won't be a second time. At least not during our marriage," Lisa said frantically. James scowled at her before standing up carefully. Without a second glance at her, he walked out directly. Lisa sat there with her fists gripped together, her look full of anguish. She had truly called James hubby, hugged him, and pleaded for kisses. She would rather die. She could not blame him for being upset. She had made an arrangement with him to mutually remain out of each other's affairs, but last night, she had instead done something so insane in her drunken haze. She had even ventured to call him hubby even though they were only married under a contract. He was used to being superior. To hear someone call him hubby must have made him fall apart inside. Besides, even if he wanted to hear someone call him hubby, he would only want to hear Emily doing so. There was no way he would want to hear her call him that. In her immense frustration, Lisa swatted her head. When the maid spotted this, she walked over fast. "Madam, what happened to you?" Lisa said gloomily. "It's nothing. I just have a bit of a headache." The maid murmured softly. "Madam, sir probably didn't sleep well last night, so he's not in a good mood. Also, his complexion is extremely bad. Don't worry, madam." Lisa raised her head. "He didn't sleep well last night? Did he suffer because of me?" The maid said, "No, sir took a cold shower that lasted half the night, so he didn't sleep well." "What?" Dumbfounded, Lisa added, "Your sir has so many weird habits. Why take a cold shower for no reason?" The maid did not know either. She could only presume as she added, "I saw Dr. Richard come over just now. It's probably because sir recently shifted his medical treatment plan to a new one." Lisa shook her head and thought to herself that James's condition was extremely irritating. At the same time, inside James's study room, James looked at his doctor. "I feel like my body went through some new changes recently." It was not Richard's first or second day supporting James with his treatment. He has been doing this for about 10 years since James's ailment began. So when he heard him stating, "This today," he queried monotonously, "What changes?" "It's just that recently when I touch Lisa, I don't really feel uncomfortable. I don't break out in rashes either. I'm wondering whether it's because I had sexual relationships. With her, thus I'm not that repulsed. Richard shrugged and remarked, I think that's entirely possible. James frowned. I want a concrete answer, not a possibility. Richard could only hesitantly answer, Sir, your illness is in itself very strange. You're possibly the lone case in the whole globe. Thus, I merely have you as a case study to explore. How can I offer you a specific answer? James's gaze lowered and his countenance clouded. Richard sighed and said, But, sir, you only can't touch women. It's not like you can't get thrilled. All your biological functions perform like a typical person's, hence it's permissible for you to acquire affections toward a woman. No way. James glanced at him. I already have Emily, and what happened between me and Lisa was just an accident. If that's the case, you can just try to have intimate relations, again to check if your body might feel differently. No, this isn't an experiment. James stood up, took his clothing, and walked out. Lisa was not a guinea pig either. At a Western restaurant, James gingerly held a knife and fork in each hand as he sliced the exquisite steak on his plate. 2. The side, a violinist was playing lovely music, giving the entire high-class restaurant a tranquil feel with suitable ambiance. Emily grinned as she added, The food here is really quite good. James nodded. It is. Emily realized that there was something unusual with James's expression. Confused, she questioned, James, why are you in such low spirits today? James looked up slightly. Maybe it's because I didn't sleep. Well, last night. Emily's face crumpled a little. With some venom in her glare, she glanced at him with her head down. About what I said before. My suggestion for you to move out and live with me. Have you decided? The hand holding his. Fork paused. I'm still considering it. In a flash of rage, Emily set down her fork and knife promptly. James, are you even seriously considering it? Upon being forcefully questioned, James felt a little frustrated. But he thought to himself, he could understand. It was fair for Emily to have such fears. I am considering it seriously. However, I don't want to face the danger of being discovered by my family. You know that I am a cautious person in my relations. I would much rather have detailed plans that are perfectly safe as opposed to being worried every day about whether or not I will be discovered. Is it really because you're afraid of being discovered, or is it because you just don't want to be separated from your wife? Emily said, almost running out of patience. James froze as Emily rose up rapidly. If you don't want to be separated from her, then I'll leave. I'll back out and allow the two of you be together. Wouldn't that be great? As she mentioned this, Emily took her handbag and walked out without looking back. James set down his fork and knife, but he sat there without following after her. Of course, he wanted to reassure Emily that there was nothing going on between him and Lisa. However, it was not necessarily true that he and Lisa had no relationship. At the very least, they had the most intimate of links, something he could not dispute. Very shortly after, he returned home, but before he even entered, he seemed to hear Lisa inside speaking to someone over the phone.